Okay, Draymond Green is suspended, and the length is curious. We're going to break down what that is because there were no specifics provided for the most part, not only in terms of how long he's suspended, but what the requirements are in order for him to get back on the court. We're going to talk about just the impact in general, the act in general, the patience of the fan base, of the team, just running absolutely thin. There is no one, for the most part, still defending Dre anymore, and for good reason. We're going to talk about all that next, plus some Klay Thompson discussion as well, because there are some new pieces of information that just came out about Klay, and his future with the team is definitely something worth discussing. Stay tuned. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by, actually get that. That's actually some important information. Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. I did say on last night's show with Kylan Mills, I was not going to host the program today, but the news dropped with Draymond Green. Look, bottom line is there's just too much to talk about. It would be egregious on my part to take this day off considering all the news that dropped. Let's first just get right into Draymond Green. It was announced today that he was suspended indefinitely, not 5 games, not 10 games, not 48 games, indefinitely. And that's weird, right? I mean, it's not every day that you hear about an athlete being suspended for an indefinite amount of time because there is nothing specific about that. And the press release that the NBA published as well, it didn't specify the work that he needs to do to come back onto the court. The NBA not only announcing the suspension, but they were very vague in terms of what exactly Draymond Green has to do in order for the suspension to be done. And again, weird, right? Fascinating in terms of the why. But so Shams Charania did a fantastic job in terms of reporting on the Golden State Warriors the last 24 to 48 hours. What I mean by that is that he not only provided some important details in regards to what the suspension means, what the NBA actually wants from Draymond Green in order to for the suspension to be lifted and for him to get back on the court. But he also dropped a very fascinating nugget when it comes to Klay Thompson. So Klay, and then this is one of the only shows out there. This might have been the only show out there who reported that Klay Thompson was in fact given offers by the Golden State Warriors. The amount I didn't know, and my source didn't know either. It was a huge mystery in terms of what the offers were specifically. What we do know is that Klay Thompson turned the offers down. What's been reported is that Klay reportedly wants a deal close to a max, and the Warriors will not give that to him. So in just a moment, I'm going to talk about what that total actually is and whether or not that offer is even still on the table, whether or not Klay can still expect that offer. But first, the Draymond Green situation. First of all, the NBA is quoted in their press releases writing that Draymond Green will be required to meet certain league and team conditions before he returns to play, unquote. Now, what do those conditions mean? Fortunately, Shams came in and said counseling being one of the variables that Draymond must fulfill in order to get back on the court. What that means, I have no idea. I don't know if it requires a psychiatrist. I don't know if it requires a psychologist. I don't know if what the specifics of that arrangement are going to be. Who knows if it's going to be helpful? Who knows if Draymond Green already has had counseling in his life? As someone with a lot of resources like Draymond, it wouldn't surprise me if he's been seeing someone for a good number of years. But there's no doubting that the way Draymond has been responding to these incidents is a problem in and of itself. And one example of this is go back to the start of last NBA season, a little over a year ago. We all know about the Jordan Poole situation. We all know that Draymond Green clocked him. The video was leaked. We never found out who leaked it. A year later, Jordan Poole is traded to the Wizards for Chris Paul. But what stuck out to me and to a lot of other people was following that incident, Draymond Green, instead of being contrite, instead of being remorseful, and he was those things, but he also made this video package for TNT, who I believe he's still a partner with. I haven't really seen him on there in a while as an employee, as a broadcaster, but I know Draymond and TNT were business partners. Draymond was an employee of the NBA facet of TNT, and they had this whole package that came out. I believe it was published on Ring Night, where Draymond basically turned all the attention that he was getting from the Jordan Poole incident and made it about him, made it about how difficult it was to have so many people upset with him, that he cold-cocked one of his own teammates. And that was weird. That wasn't a good look. And then we go to last night, where Draymond Green, again, he got ejected yet again for an unfortunate incident on the court. In this case, doing his little ballerina spin that he claims was him trying to sell a foul. And let's take a listen together, because we didn't get to listen to the sound on last night's show of Draymond Green trying to explain his side of the use of Nurkic incident and what he said to Nurkic and how he explained it. And actually, let me go to this page first. I think this one happened initially. So there's two sound bites. We'll go in chronological order. This was Draymond Green after last night talking about the ejection.
It was to be there for your teammates. And Steve made a point today saying they need you to win games.
I'm aware. And like I said, if I intended to do that,
right,
then I feel awful about not being there. But my intentions were just to sell the foul. And he was, as you can see, as I'm posting up, he's moving forward. So as I'm moving back, he's still coming forward. And like I said, it's unfortunate. I apologize to Nurkic because I hit him. So I do apologize to him. I didn't intend to hit him. So I think you guys have known me long enough. If I intended to do something, I'm not apologizing. But I did make contact with him, so I apologize because it wasn't my intention.
It was to be there for your teammates. And Steve made a point today saying they need you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so that was part one. And then here is part two of Draymond discussing the Nurkic issue. Wait, sorry. Hang on a second here. My bad. I apologize for that. I thought it was set up there. Let me try this again. Live broadcasts can be tricky sometimes. I apologize. All right. Here is the second part of the soundbite. Draymond Green discussing the incident with Nurkic.
He was pulling my hip, and I was swinging away to sell the ball. Made contact with him. As you know, I'm not one to apologize for things I meant to do, but I do apologize to you, sir. Because I didn't intend to hit him. I sell calls with my arms. Don't fall to sell a call. I don't not flopper. So I was just selling the call because he was grabbing me and pulling my hip. So I spun away, and unfortunately, I hit him. So, like I said, I apologize to you, sir, because I didn't intend to.
You seen the replay?
Yeah.
How did it look to you?
Like as I've said before, any replay, if I go look at every replay of everything, a replay it's never going to look good, but like I said, I know my intentions. My intentions were to sell a call. But I also don't think accurate enough puncher to do a full 360 and connect with someone. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. And here's the problem with those sound bites. Don't give excuses. Draymond has been in the situation so many times now that if there's one thing no one wants to hear anymore, it's excuses. It's, I'm sorry, but no more BUTs. No more smiling when you're trying to explain yourself for a violent conduct. Say sorry, be remorseful, and leave it at that. This is where really it's escalating to become a bigger problem for Draymond Green, is that he keeps getting in these situations and he does apologize, but he adds excuses for the actions. And that's where the limit has been reached. No more excuses. Excuse me. Now, I'm very curious to know, again, what these counseling sessions are going to come down to, right? Like I don't know if maybe self-awareness is something that's going to be broached. I don't know if maybe this is going to be old school therapy, where maybe he has to be self-reflective, going back to his childhood days. However this goes, let's hope that it's effective. Let's hope that Draymond learns from this. And in just a moment, we could talk about what the future holds. For example, is trading Draymond on the table? And what does indefinite mean? We'll talk about both those things in just a moment, because the indefinite part of it, in terms of the suspension, is very unique. And it's very, it's interesting because how few times that specific word has been mentioned in terms of a punishment for an athlete. I'm going to read to you what those instances were, and then we'll talk about Klay as well, because that's a whole other issue. First, though, got to give some love to eBay Motors. There's the graphic right there. And look, our partners at eBay Motors, they've teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd, whose show is wildly popular on this network and on the internet, on YouTube, everywhere, to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh Lloyd has picked out for us on this week's eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. His 5 players for this week are Isaiah Hartenstein, Dante Exum, Keontae George, Oscar Thompson, and Jonathan Kuminga. Whoa, I did not see that. I'm going to go with Jonathan Kuminga, obviously. That's my pick for the 5 players. And Josh Lloyd's description of Kuminga is a bit of a left field pick. Kuminga has jumped in the last 2 games, and the Warriors floundering. Perhaps he could see a solid run of minutes over the next week or so. Yeah, he's putting up some good numbers. 2 games ago, 24 points, 12 rebounds. Last game, 16.6 rebounds. Again, these are in limited minutes, by the way. We have yet to see, or it's been very rare, maybe 1 or 2 times ever in his career where we've seen Kuminga have like a 30, 35-minute game. Maybe we'll start seeing that. Who knows? But again, Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship. And eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. And look, on a personal note, eBay Motors is awesome when it comes to finding parts for your car. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED highlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Podcast Network has itself a national show right now. Locked On's launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. You might see my face on that show from various appearances I'm making talking about this Draymond situation. Go to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And you can follow me again on Threads at Dog Wild. So there's been some instances in the past, and Locked On Mavericks host Nick Engstad, he's also the manager of the Locked On NBA channel as a whole. So we were talking earlier today about the Draymond incident, and he did some research to see what other suspensions in recent NBA history have been tagged with the term indefinite, because it's not specific. We have no idea how many games Draymond Green is actually going to be suspended for. So from his research, and Nick, thank you so much again for your help with this. In 2010, the NBA suspended. If you're a longtime fan of the NBA, I'm sure you will remember this incident. David Stern, rest in peace, was involved. Stern suspended Washington Wizards guard Gilbert Arenas, former Golden State Warriors second-round pick, who the team lost because of incredibly unfortunate circumstances involving the CBA at that point, allowing other teams to offer Gilbert Arenas more than the Warriors could have. The whole thing was ridiculous and very symbolic of just the bad fortunes of the Golden State Warriors for a lot of decades there. So in 2010, Gilbert Arenas was suspended because of an incident. Who was the other player? Was it, I think, Javaris, was it Crittenton? Is that his name? Or I can't remember off the top of my head. But Gilbert Arenas was basically playing cards in the locker room. Things escalated. Guns were pulled out in the locker room. And Gilbert Arenas in that incident was initially suspended indefinitely, ended up missing 8 games. In April of 2014, one of the ugliest incidents in NBA history, Donald Sterling, the longtime owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, previously the San Diego Clippers, or is it San Diego? Sterling, again, was recorded saying some of the ugliest things imaginable, utterly racist, pure trash coming out of that individual's mouth. He had a long-standing reputation for being scum of the earth, and he was suspended indefinitely when those recordings came out, and he was forced to sell the team, and the rest is history there. Fast forward 6 years. In February of 2020, a month before the world shut down because of the pandemic, Malik Monk was suspended indefinitely for violating the NBA anti-drug program. Now, that indefinite suspension turned to 8 games, but then the season ended. I still don't know if he actually served that suspension, but it was originally indefinite. It turned into 8. Who knows if he served that? If someone else in the chat has the answer there, please publish it and I'll try to read it. 2 years later, 2.5 more specifically, November 2022, Kyrie Irving of the Brooklyn Nets was suspended indefinitely for publishing social media content that a lot of people interpreted as anti-Semitic. And he was initially suspended indefinitely for that. That turned into 8 games. And earlier this year in March, Ja Morant was suspended indefinitely. And that eventually turned into 9 games. So the Ja Morant situation, again, suspended because of the gun social media thing. I'm sorry. Did I completely say the wrong thing there? I apologize. My brain just blanked for a moment. Anyway, so the point is, when you see an indefinite suspension, history has shown, with the exception of Donald Sterling, they run 8 to 9 games. Gilbert Arenas ended up missing 8 games. Malik Monk was maybe suspended 8 games. Kyrie Irving ended up being suspended for 8 games. And then Ja Morant missed 9 games for that indefinite suspension the first time. So we'll see what happens. Sorry, I can't say what's in the chat publicly, but it's funny. You folks are funny. So there you go. So we'll see what happens with Draymond Green, but it doesn't look like we're going to see him anytime soon. And in just a moment, I'm going to look at the schedule to see hypothetically where 8 to 9 games will lead to. And then we're going to talk about Klay Thompson, because that is a whole other variable of what's turned into a chaotic, turning into a very ugly season for the Golden State. This season's turning into a dumpster fire. There's no way to spin this, but we'll talk about that and so much more in just a moment. Got to give some love to Gametime. Look, maybe you want to distract yourself. Maybe you want to get your mind off sports and go to a concert. Maybe you want to go to a theater production. Maybe you want to go to a Niners game. Whatever the event is, use Gametime to buy those tickets. It is the best resource out there for you. Look, buying tickets can be frustrating, all right? And one of the many awesome things about Gametime is, even if it's last minute, you're going to find your tickets. I'm not guaranteeing that, but you likely will. So they're a great resource just for actually finding supply of the ticket you want. Their app and website gives you phenomenal views of what your prospective seats will provide, right? You want to know how it's going to look, where you're going to sit, right? Gametime gives you that view. And maybe the best part, something that they do guarantee, it's a low price guarantee. Meaning, let's say you buy your tickets on Gametime, and let's say you decide you're curious, you're browsing other ticket dealers, and you happen to see the exact tickets you bought in the same row and section priced less than what you paid for your tickets. What do then? You go to Gametime, you show them a screen capture, you say, hey, I spent more on you than I would have on these folks. They'll refund the difference. That is literally a low price guarantee. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen for the everydayers. We're back at it tomorrow night. Warriors and Clippers postgame. Kylan Mills will be joining me for that. So hope you tune in and join the show. I'm going to predict a victory for the Warriors tomorrow night. I'm feeling good about that. I'm not giving up on this Warriors team. Call me crazy. Call me delusional. Call me Nutty Cy. Whatever you want to call me. I'm not giving up hope yet. This team's track record for success is unmatched. It's unparalleled. I get it. Klay Thompson's on the decline. Draymond Green is serving an indefinite suspension, and he's not the same player he was. And in future shows, we're going to talk a lot about trade possibilities. That is not for tonight's show. Stephen Curry is frustrated. I don't know if you saw the clip, by the way. He kicked his chair. I don't know why Kenny Atkinson was laughing in that clip. What are you laughing at, coach? That coaching staff needs a cleansing on a side note. I literally cringe every time I see clips of the Warriors bench and I see 2 rows of assistants. There's like 10 assistants at least. What are you doing? Like the team, what are they doing? Like they have that one assistant coach who is from somewhere Eastern European, right? He's the guy who's Jokic's former coach. They brought him in to coach Wiseman. Yeah, great job there. You have no bigs on your team now. Why do you have 10 assistant coaches? What are they doing? Because I don't see any results. What's going on there? Anyways, I don't know what Kenny Atkinson was laughing about. This whole season has not been a laughing matter. His tenure as the number 1 assistant who oversees the defense has not been a laughing matter. Yeah, there is Stephen Curry kicking the chair. He's pissed off. And, dude, you're laughing? And Chris Paul, by the way, came over and consoled him a little bit. But the Warriors assistants, I mean, if we're look, there's almost no chance in hell that Steve Kerr is going anywhere this season. Joe Lacob is gonna give him at least this year. All right, no predictions beyond that. But you can make a profound statement during the season and fire some of these assistants who are doing nothing except taking up space. Bring someone with some cachet, a high-profile individual who can maybe counterbalance Steve Kerr's lunacy with these substitutions, these rotations. Maybe we can see some Usman Garuba. Maybe we can see Trace Jackson Davis, not DNP for a month. There's something has to change. There's no doubt about that. Now, the report coming out of from Shams Charania regarding Klay Thompson, and it's time to have that discussion, is that Klay was offered a 2-year deal this past offseason, a 2-year extension for $48 million. All right. That's a lot of money. Certainly a lot of money to, I'm guessing, anyone watching this show sure is a damn large amount of money to me. I think most professional athletes, $24 million a year for 2 years, that you're not scoffing at that. That's a huge chunk of change. And that's what Klay Thompson was offered. And that deal would have allowed Klay to finish up his contract at the same time as Draymond, Wiggins, and Steph, not including their player options. I don't think Steph is a player option. I actually don't know his situation, but I do know Wiggins and Draymond Green, the final years of their deals have player options attached to them. So the Warriors offer this 2-year extension, $48 million, which is a ton of money. And Klay Thompson says no. That offer is no longer on the table, by the way. So very curious to see what happens after this season. But the question that should be posed, hey, Locked On NBA, how's it going? But the question that should be posed with Klay Thompson is, because I don't envision a world where Klay Thompson is traded, mainly because of what he's done for this team. They're going to build a statue outside Chase Arena. But what if his intention is to leave after this season? What if the Warriors hold on to him for nostalgic reasons, right? And they put up with the career low shooting, they put up with the career low scoring, his numbers are down across the board in terms of his entire career, especially, and the most concerning parts are his field goal percentage and his 3-point percentage. He was 1 for 8 from beyond the arc, by the way, in yesterday's loss. But if his plan is to leave, and my sources are telling me that is possible, why would you not at least take into consideration trading him? Why would you not at least take into consideration what can we get for him, if anything? Maybe you can't get anything for him, right? But the thing is, if Klay, and again, yeah, Jill Espina, for example, who writes, Klay is a Hall of Fame Warrior, no doubt. But what if he's going to leave after this season? Is nostalgia worth keeping him and then getting burned and getting nothing back in return after the year is over? I bring that up mostly as a thought, as a something for you folks to just think about when the Klay Thompson discussion comes up, because what do you do in this situation? And maybe Fee AM Dubs fan is correct. Maybe you just can't get anything for him. Maybe his value is that low. Klay on the year, by the way, I want to get to these numbers real fast, just to tell you just really how much Klay Thompson is struggling. And we mentioned this on last night's show, by the way. Klay Thompson told Anthony Slater of The Athletic that he was okay with not finishing the game. Good answer. All right. But Klay on the year, 15.4 points per game. All right. Second lowest in his career, behind his rookie season. Klay Thompson he's averaging 30 minutes per game. That's a whole other discussion. He's averaging 4 rebounds per game. Which, again, normally you wouldn't care about that. But Klay's role has changed. Klay Thompson is no longer your perimeter wing defender guarding the other team's best player. Klay is no longer your traditional 2. Klay Thompson is more like a small forward, small ball 4 at times out there. And his rebounding numbers are pretty much on par with his career. For his career, he averages 3.6 rebounds per game. He's up to 4 this year. But it's the shooting percentages that are incredibly concerning. Klay on this season, his overall field goal percentage is at 39.7%. Career low. All right. Anything below 40 in general is not good. Now, you make some exceptions for perimeter type players, especially if they're defensive specialists who you don't have on your team for their offensive prowess. That's not Klay Thompson. You have Klay Thompson for offense, first and foremost. He's shooting 39.7% from the field, career low. He's shooting 34.3% from three, below the league average, career low. He's only shot below 40% one time in his career, and that was 2 years ago, the year they won the championship, when he had just come back from his torn Achilles, torn ACL recoveries. And that season, his shooting percentage from deep was 38.5. It's down to 34.3, and the dude is averaging 30 minutes per game. His net rating is awful. Entering last night's game, it was minus 18 on the year. And Genji Gaw, totally, dude. Let's trade Klay for Ty Jerome all day. Ty Jerome, by the way, has played only 2 games all season because of an ankle sprain. And the thing with Klay and Wiggins, and we'll talk about trades in a future show, all right? But the thing with Klay and Wiggins, they're two entirely opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to players in their contract years. Something tells me, and I'm confident in saying this, that if Andrew Wiggins did not get that extension, we'd be seeing a totally different Andrew Wiggins out there this season. He would be motivated. He would be focused. He would not be one of the biggest perplexing individuals in recent NBA history in terms of just a drastic drop-off for a player who is still in his 20s. And then you have Klay Thompson, a player who, and this is something else we talked about. Look, I don't mean to sound arrogant saying this, but if you're an everydayer of this program, you're going to sound smart to everyone else you talk to when it comes to the Warriors. Because we're saying all this stuff months before everyone else is. And we talked about the Klay Thompson thing. Is he going to be okay in a contract year? Well, the answer to that is no. Some players thrive in contract years because they're motivated. They have incentive. And again, Andrew Wiggins, who on the year right now, he's only 28 years old. He's averaging career lows in points, 12.1 points per game. He's only averaging 1.1 assists per game. It's not like he's helping his teammates. He's shooting 41.3% from the field. That's barely above 40%. Andrew Wiggins from three is shooting 27.9%. He's averaging 2 turnovers per game. He's also averaging 4.4 rebounds per game, which is his lowest total since 2016-17, his third year in the league. So he's not even like attacking the glass that effectively. But again, that's just two opposite ends of the spectrum. And these two players are at the forefront of what's going wrong with this team, besides the fact that Draymond Green is a mess. But it's crazy. This is an absolutely catastrophic season for the Warriors so far. It's only December, though. And in terms of the Draymond Green suspension, let's say hypothetically he serves 9 games. As we covered a moment ago, for indefinite suspensions, it's usually 8 to 9 games in recent history. So that would put Draymond Green hypothetically back with the team. He's gonna most definitely miss the Christmas Day game against the Nuggets. And he'll probably be back either Thursday, December 28th at home against the Miami Heat, or Saturday, December 30th at home against the Dallas Mavericks. That's likely when we're going to see him. And who knows how this Warriors team looks at that point, right? In the chat real fast, Shane West asks, is Joe Lacob going to intervene to save this season? Great question. We haven't heard anything from Joe Lacob yet. I would love to hear his thoughts right now. He can't be happy. I'll say that much. And traveling Urquidez. Ugh. Yeah, you did say so. This is going to be a dumpster fire season. I'm sorry, but I'm still holding out hope. Folks, thanks for joining me tonight. Crazy year so far. Pure chaos, but it's early. And I appreciate the positivity from DCEP3up. I think Wiggins can turn it around. I hope you're right. I really do. Hope everyone's happy out there. Crazy world. Do what you can to stay safe, folks. Put a smile on your face if you can. We'll be back at this soon. Post game tomorrow. Warriors Clippers. I predict a win. Good night, everyone.